Welcome to Kitchen Uncovered. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson of the Culinary Institute of Canada. Today at Annie's Table Culinary Studio in New London, Prince Edward Island. Today's show, Michelle Matheson.
Hello.
Welcome to the show again.
Thank you for having me again.
You've been here before, and
Yes.
what have you been doing since we last talked?
Just working at the school all summer. It's been a busy summer. We had a few competitions that happened before the summer. I went to Newfoundland and we ended up getting gold and grand gold, and it was a great time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's more bragging rights for the CABC. So today's show we're doing pumpkin.
Pumpkin, versatile pumpkins. We're going to do it 3 ways. First, we're going to get stuff ready for a pumpkin pie, then stuff for a pumpkin gnocchi, and then pumpkin succotash to go with it.
Okay, so where do we get started?
Great. We're going to chop up our pumpkin and show the way that you can roast it.
So we're going to roast the pumpkin.
Yeah.
So when you get into it, we're going to take it apart, and any way you season it or any particular way of roasting it when you do it? Whole pumpkin that's easier than for us at home?
You can use whatever seasonings you want. I'm going to give it to you, and you can get some of those seeds out.
Okay.
While you get the seeds out, you put them in a little bowl, and you can roast them off for later. We're going to roast some for our pumpkin pie as garnish. And while Chef is doing that, I'm going to get started on our pie dough.
Okay.
Great.
So pumpkins are very versatile this time of year, and we're
They
going to use the
are.
seeds for a little bit of garnish on the pie. Is that the idea?
Yes. You can put some coriander, cumin, paprika on it, or you can put some cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, anything for that. Today we're going to do more of the bake shop spice, make it a
Okay.
little bit sweet. So in our pie dough, we're going to make a gingerbread crust pie dough to go with the pumpkin. We're going to start with 1.5 cups of flour, and then some cubed unsalted butter. And then you work that into the flour so it forms pea-sized shapes.
So any gingerbread cookie style use for this, or do you need anything to keep it more
No, you can use
moisture?
any gingerbread style cookie. I'm just kind of making a regular plain pie dough with more ginger and cinnamon than you would normally put in it.
Right. So pumpkins are a little bit more than just carving for Halloween.
Right, you can eat it. So it kind of acts just like any other squash would. It just probably tastes a little bit better.
And make a good soup.
You can puree it into a soup, add a little bit of cream, some bacon, of course.
Right.
Right. All right.
Okay.
So these pea-size bits form in your flour dough, and then you know you're ready for every other part. So you can make a little well in the middle, and then we're going to add our sugar, a little bit of salt.
So while you're doing that, I get the seeds out of the pumpkin. So you just want me to a little bit of oil and some
Yeah.
seasoning on this?
A little oil, salt, and pepper, and then we'll roast it in the oven for about 35-40 minutes until the flesh is soft, tender to the knife.
Okay,
So
and that'll give it a nice
add the
roasted
mayonnaise.
flavor. Just kind of
Yep.
rub this around.
Grab a spoon. Right.
So I'm going to use a little bit of nutmeg.
Perfect. And the molasses will add richness to your pie dough, so that's good to have. And then we'll add about 5 tablespoons of water. And our spices, we're going to start with some ginger, so about a teaspoon of ginger or more, just in case you want more ginger.
Whatever you like, right?
Yes, some nutmeg and lots of cinnamon.
Okay, so we have the pumpkins hollowed out and seasoned with some oil and some nutmeg, salt, and pepper,
Perfect.
or whatever you want to put on there. So we'll just put that on a roasting pan. And we're just going to put this skin side up.
Yep, in
In
the
the
375-degree oven.
Okay. I'm just going to throw that in here.
Perfect.
I also have Alicia Dennison helping us out today in the back kitchen. She's a graduate student, and she's giving us a hand getting ready for the succotash. So the other half of the pumpkin, we didn't roast all of it because we
Right.
used that for the puree. We're going to dice this up a little bit later.
We are. And we're
Okay.
going to put that in our pumpkin succotash, which will go with our pumpkin gnocchi
Okay.
after we puree our already roasted pumpkin.
All right, so I'll just put that aside.
Great.
Alicia, can you grab me another bowl, please? So we're just going to take the seeds out of the guts of this.
Perfect. I'm just going to knead the pie dough until it comes
you.
together a little bit, and then I'll probably refrigerate it for about 35 minutes to get it to come together. So
So you have to let it rest once you mix it up?
Yes, usually let it rest. Get the butter all in there.
And what's the purpose of resting it? Just to let it
Just let it relax.
relax?
Yep.
So you don't develop a lot of gluten?
Right, and it's
not
easier
tough
to
like
roll
bread?
out when you let it relax. So it calls for 1.5 cups of flour, but you can use more for dusting, and if it's a little too sticky.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming together nicely there, and it has a nice brown color. That's all your ginger and cinnamon and molasses. That'll go nice with the pumpkin.
This would be a good job for the kids to do.
Yeah. After they carve their pumpkin, they can have a snack. It's a good snack, too, to have. There. So we have our dough ready. We're going to let it set in the fridge for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we're going to roll it out and make our pie filling.
Okay.
Great.
Did you want the other half of pumpkin to peel it and dice it for the succotash?
Sure. Savannah.
So the pie dough, could you make that a day ahead, or just have it in the fridge? Does it have to be made the day of?
You can make it however far ahead you want. You can even freeze it and then reuse it if you'd like.
Okay. So how long, if you wrapped it well, it'll keep in the freezer for
probably
a month or two?
Yeah, a month or less.
Or less?
Yeah.
You don't want it in there longer than a month?
No, you don't want freezer burnt pie dough.
No. Okay.
I'll give my hands a
Freezer
quick
burnt bad.
wash.
Just picking my pumpkin seeds. Picking the pumpkin seeds. So we're going to do some succotash and some gnocchi. Gnocchi is with the pumpkin. We normally do that with potatoes, right?
Right. Gnocchi is usually a potato dumpling, but we're going to use pumpkin. And you could use anything. You could use squash. You could use sweet potato.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Gnocchi's another item that you could do up ahead, right?
Right.
Stores in the freezer, not...
The freezer, but not the fridge. So if you're going to make it and use it, you'd have to freeze it because it doesn't stay that long.
Okay.
So we're just going to peel our pumpkin.
So is there anything we should worry about? Just peel it on the outside with your chef's knife?
Yep, you can use a peeler if you'd like. If you're more comfortable with that, I just like using my chef knife.
Okay. And any particular size you need to dice that up for?
I'm going to do it about the same size as the corn and everything else that I've diced up for the succotash, so it cooks evenly.
Okay. And this is stuff that you can all do ahead of time and just kind of have ready to go.
About a day ahead if you won't have time to prep it the day of.
Right. So we don't need all these seeds, right? Some of them are just for garnish.
Right.
But if you had them and the kids wanted to pick them, if they're very good, just to toss in some oil and season them and then roast them off. You could do spicy or whatever, then make a nice snack. And then this, you could pickle pumpkins too.
Good.
Right?
You could pickle a lot of your garden vegetables that might be going bad that you won't be using before the frost hits.
Okay, so we're working on pumpkin today, Michelle Matheson. We're gonna finish these seeds, get them ready for the oven, dice our succotash, and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Kitchen Uncovered. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson of the Culinary Institute of Canada. Today we're at Annie's Table Culinary Studio in New London, Prince Edward Island. Today our guest chef, Michelle Matheson, graduate of culinary. So we're doing pumpkins today.
We are.
We have our pumpkin roasted in the oven.
Yep.
You've got the dough ginger dough that's been rested for our pie.
Yep.
So where do we do next?
I'm going to roll out the dough, and we're going to put it in our shell, and then we're going to make our pumpkin pie filling.
Excellent.
Perfect. I'm going to start by putting a little bit of flour on your board, just so it doesn't stick. So no one likes to stuck pie
Okay, so the
dough.
pie dough, should that have been resting in the refrigerator or just on the countertop?
I put it in the refrigerator for about 20 minutes, just so it has time to rest.
Okay.
I'm going to roll it out a
And
bit.
then put it out in the counter till it softens up a little bit so it's easier to roll? Or do you want to roll
So it
from
doesn't crack.
fridge coat? Right.
Right. So I start from the middle and I go up, and then I go down, and then I twist it, and you go around. So you don't have a long dough, you have a nice circle dough.
So middle to the top to the bottom, and then twist it
Side
and
to
go
side.
back around.
You could do a dance if you wanted. A little jig.
Dances are good. We have our saute pan on. This is going to be for our what? Bacon?
Succotash. Yes, we're going to put our bacon, start that because
Holy
that's the
pumpkin
one that
succotash.
takes the longest. We're making a pumpkin succotash to go with our pumpkin gnocchi and pumpkin pie.
Pumpkin.
All right.
Is it October?
Almost. It's almost Halloween, kids. Okay.
So how thick do you want the pie crust to be? Do you have a preference? thin crust is better, is like pizza, or do you want a thicker pie crust or something in the middle?
Because the filling is a little bit heavier, you'd probably like a little thicker of a crust.
Yeah.
I am just going to leave it a little bit thicker, and then, so you wouldn't dock your dough or anything like a normal pie because you're having a raw filling and a raw dough.
And the docking is knocking air holes in it so it doesn't get an air bubble.
Yeah, so it doesn't steam up, and the steam doesn't ruin your pie dough, and you get bubbles, and then you don't have a beautiful pie.
And we've got stoneware for our pie dough, but you could use a glass or
Yeah, you could use
casserole or
whatever
dish
you
or anything.
want. So-
And also grease it.
Yep, I actually rubbed a little bit of butter in there so that the pie dough won't stick.
Okay.
And I'm going to cut off a little bit of the edge, but not too much, because when you cut it, the dough will shrink up.
Right.
And then you'll have a short crust.
Okay. So roll it a little bit rounder, a little
Roll
bit
it
bigger than you need it.
A little bit longer than you need it. And then trim a bit over the side.
Okay. So for this, we're using the pumpkin that we roasted in the oven.
Right, and then we pureed that. You can use
Right.
a Robo
We have some that we did earlier, but this is the
blender.
pumpkin that we had in the oven, right?
Right.
And you're just waiting for it to get soft on the outside to the touch. That's kind of what you're
Tender
looking for.
to your knife as well.
And then when you flip it open, it's
You
got that
have all
nice
your
roasted volume on there, right?
And you can put that in
So
your
you
food processor or in
blend
a
it up,
blender you have.
And then you use it for the pie
Use it
mix.
for your pie.
Excellent.
All right, so we're going to build your crust there. Flip it under.
Make the edges all nice and fancy.
Yeah, you could do a braid if you wanted. If you wanted to braid your dough, a little excess dough. Do this trick my mom taught me where you take your thumb and your index finger on both hands and you press and then you go forward and it makes for
Very
a
cool.
fancy crust.
Fancy. So we got our pan getting warmed up. Did you want me to start
Yes, sure you
sauteing
can
the bacon for the succotash?
turn that up on high and then we can throw the bacon in as soon as your pan gets smoky because you want to render most of the fat off your bacon.
Okay.
So we have our pie crust. Now I'm going to make the filling.
Okay. Now I can just sit and be ready.
Yes.
Okay.
So for our pie filling, we're going to take about 2 cups of pumpkin,
The roasted pumpkin.
the roasted pumpkin that we pureed, 2 cups of sugar.
2 and 2.
Yeah, we have a little bit of condensed milk. I'm going to whisk this together just to incorporate it.
So the bacon for the succotash, do we want it crispy or do we just want to render it?
We want it super crispy so that you get that nice crunch in your succotash.
Okay.
So we have the sugar and the pumpkin. Incorporate that. And then we're going to crack our eggs.
So 2 cups of sugar, 2 cups of pumpkin, and 2 eggs?
2 eggs, and
Two,
then
two,
you
and two?
have a cup of evaporated milk.
Okay.
I like to put some spices in my pumpkin filling. You can use
Yeah.
nutmeg, cinnamon, any bake shop spices that you'd like.
You'd
So
add a
like to
little bit of
spoon
spice
some
to
of
it as
those
well?
in our filling.
Sure. What'd you say, nutmeg?
Some nutmeg, some cinnamon.
A teaspoon of each or so?
Yeah. Don't want it to be too overpowering because you do have the gingerbread crust for your pie. And I'm going to incorporate the evaporated milk.
Want a little ginger in there? We've got ginger in our pie crust. Will that
Right.
overdo it or?
I don't think. I like ginger. All right. All right, so when everything is fully incorporated in there, you can get it into your pie shell. And
Okay.
I have the oven preheated at 425.
Right.
And then it's about 15 minutes after that, you can turn it down to 325 and finish cooking your pie.
Okay, so just some spices, a couple of eggs, a couple of cups of brown sugar and pureed pumpkin, and then
Yeah.
bake it in the raw pie dough.
Yep. And then later, we're going to top it off with some cinnamon whipped cream and a little bit of our roasted pumpkin seeds.
Awesome. And you said roasted about 375 oven? A hotter
Start it
oven, the
at
better?
425, and then you can turn it down to 375. So we'll
Okay.
put our pumpkin in our oven now.
Okay. The bacon's starting to render, so it's starting to smell.
Perfect.
Kitchen's starting to
So now we're going to mix our gnocchi dough for our pumpkin gnocchi.
Okay. And gnocchi, when we do gnocchi, normally with people think of potatoes, right?
Yes, people do think potatoes, but you can use any veg, well, you can use any root veg, I guess, that you wanted. So
And
I'm
you
gonna
could use the roasted pumpkin for this as well.
The roasted pumpkin for this as well. I'm going to grab a new spatula.
Right?
All right. So for this, I'm going to mix a little bit of sage in there and some Parmesan cheese, some fresh Parm cheese. I'm going to incorporate this. And we're going to add our flour and our egg.
And about how much? So 2 cups and then a couple of cups of cheese, or however much
So
cheese you wanted?
I like a lot of cheese in my gnocchi, so it
Right.
makes for a creamier texture. And then you have your potato, about 2 cups of the potato and about 1.5 cups of your Parm cheese.
Okay.
And then we're going to crack an egg in there.
1 egg just to bind it?
1 egg just to bind it and incorporate everything together. And then some salt and pepper. A little bit of nutmeg. Mix that up.
Awesome.
Bacon smells good.
Bacon's coming along, yep.
Render in.
It's rendering now. So we're going to use the bacon fat when we saute we don't want to waste it, right?
No, we're going to use the bacon fat in our succotash. All right. So now we're going to add the flour.
How much flour? Do you still need enough just to kind of bring it so it's not sticky? Or?
Just to bring it together so it's not sticky and you can handle it with your hands, and then roll it out.
Okay. So Michelle's going to mix up the gnocchi. I'm going to finish crisping up this bacon, and then when we come right back, we'll have gnocchi and we'll put together the succotash and see how our pie's doing. So don't go away. Welcome back to Kitchen Uncovered. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson, Culinary Institute of Canada. Today at Annie's Table Culinary Studio in New London, Prince Edward Island. Today our guest chef is Michelle Matheson. We're doing pumpkin.
Yes.
So we have our bacon sauteed.
Yep.
Our pie is out of the oven and resting. So the pie, we need to make sure that it's cool before we slice it, right? You don't want
Yes.
to slice that hot.
Exactly.
And so we have our pumpkin gnocchi. So what's the challenge, or what the texture that we're looking for as far as the gnocchi? Gnocchi? Gnocchi?
Gnocchi.
Gnocchi?
So you don't want it too tough, so don't mix too much flour into your dough when you're making it. So
And you don't want it sticky. You just want to have
Right.
it.
You just want it rollable so that it doesn't really stick.
Okay.
So I'm going to roll it into a log, and you can work from the middle and then push your hands out.
So you don't need a rolling pin for this. This is kind of working the,
Right, your hands.
and not too much flour, just enough to keep it
Yeah,
workable.
right.
Okay. And we have our pot of water. So is there anything in our water ready to go to blanch the
Just
gnocchi?
a
And this has
little
got
bit
like
of
a
salt.
pasta, right?
Yeah,
Essentially.
because usually you use potatoes, but today we're using pumpkin because it is the season.
Right.
Right, so,
We don't need our water boiling. We just need it at a simmer.
yes.
And you're looking at shaping these into football shapes or
Little pillows, I guess.
pillows.
Yes.
Pumpkin pillows.
So roll it out until it's pretty even all the way through.
Okay. And we saved our bacon fat from our sauteed bacon, so
We
we can
did.
saute our succotash in that.
Yes, so I'm just going to cut the ends off, and then about 1/2 inch thick,
Okay.
and then they'll look like this,
Just like pillows.
just like pillows.
Pumpkin
Put a
pillows.
little bit of flour on your knife if it's sticking.
And we just blanch these. For how long do we blanch them?
Until they float to the top of the pot, and then
Okay.
that means they're ready, and then you can saute them, or you can just have them like that if you'd like.
So if you were doing these ahead of time, at what point would you bring them to before you froze them or held them or hold them before service? Or is this something you should,
You would have to blanch them first. So
Blanch
we're
them?
gonna Put
so you
these
should
in the
put them in the water right after you make them and then
Yep.
cook them until they float?
And then when they float to the top, they're ready, and then we're going to saute them.
Okay.
Chef's going to toss these in a little bit of oil and salt and pepper when they come out, and then I'm going to start the succotash.
Okay, so I'll switch these out. I'll let those simmer up. So what's the deal on the succotash? Succotash is a corn vegetable.
Corn, bacony, good fall creamy dish to make.
Okay.
So we are going to start off with a little bit of butter.
Butter.
And oil.
So if we add oil to the butter, we're
Keep it smoke point high so that the butter doesn't burn, but you still have that nice buttery flavor.
buttery flavor.
Right. All right. So we're gonna add a little bit of shallots, some garlic, and then your white onion.
So once we have everything prepped in the kitchen, it's just a matter of putting it together last minute.
Right. And we saute that around.
Okay.
And then we can add our previously blanched vegetables. So
Okay.
with the zucchini and the corn, I just kind of cook the corn a little bit. You can steam it, you can boil it, you can do whatever cooking method you want to keep it tender.
Yeah.
But you don't want it too mushy. Whereas the pumpkin and the beans, you'd have to blanch them first just to get them a little bit tender.
Right, so
But
they're
not
not raw.
too tender so they don't overcook.
Right, so just pre-cooking.
Yes. So we're going to add our beans and our pumpkin. Saute them a bit. And then we're going to add our zucchini.
So very
From
autumn-ish.
the garden.
Very late harvest, this dish.
Yes.
Corn and squash,
And
pumpkin.
then we'll add our corn.
More pillows are starting to stir in the pot there.
Perfect.
So should we cover this? Put a little bit.
I wouldn't, you don't have to cover it. I just like to let all the flavors saute together.
Okay.
And then we're going to add the bacon and the cream.
Okay, just gonna add a little bit of bacon fat in
A little
there.
bacon fat.
Everything's better with bacon.
Everything's better with bacon. And some gnocchi's almost done there.
Yeah, it's just starting to come up to a float, so.
Perfect. I'm gonna add the bacon to this while Chef tosses our gnocchi in some oil, salt, and pepper.
Okay. So just floating. Once they start.
Once they come right to the top, that means that they are done. And then we'll add some of the cream.
Okay, so put that over there. So you got the bacon in there and the cream, and then we're just gonna let that simmer.
Gonna let this simmer for a bit. We're actually gonna bring it to a boil and then reduce it right down so that the cream thickens up and you have a nice texture on your succotash.
Okay, so I'm just gonna put a little bit of salt and pepper on this.
Perfect. I'm gonna switch these out and let that simmer
And the oil
over
potentially
there.
just keeps it from sticking together, just
Yeah.
like a pasta, right?
Add a
So
little
you can
bit
store it better.
bacon fat as well.
So if you're gonna do these ahead of time, you would do them at this point and then individually freeze them?
Yep, if you'd like to, you can blanch them and then you can IQF them, so you individually quick freeze them on a sheet pan in your freezer, and then you can combine them in a bag or a Tupperware container or whatever you use at home.
Okay, just put this there.
Alrighty, so we're gonna let that heat up a bit, and then we'll cook our gnocchi, and then we'll let our succotash reduce a bit. And I'm going to dress your cool pie that we already have. We took it out of the oven, we let it cool down for a bit. Right. I'm going to add a little bit of cinnamon. And nutmeg.
So cinnamon and nutmeg in your whipped
A
cream.
little bit of a spiced cream.
Kind of add a little
Add
bit of
some
flavor.
instead of your usual typical vanilla or sugar.
A little bit of different.
And we'll put that in a piping bag, and then we'll put it on our pie.
Okay, and we also
the
did
bag.
our seeds a little bit earlier. We seasoned those and toasted them. So what did we
have
season
some
the seeds
toasted
with?
seeds. We used some bake shop spices again. We used cinnamon, nutmeg, and a little bit of clove.
Okay.
And then we just roasted them in the oven, a little bit of oil, and we're going to use them on our pie. But we'll put our whipped cream in our bag.
Okay. This is where the third arm comes in.
Yes.
So if you didn't have a piping bag at home, you could
Ziploc
use a
bag. if you
Ziploc
have
bag
one.
out of the cupboard.
Yep, or you could just spoon it on if you'd like.
Okay.
Perfect. So I twisted the end of my piping bag so the whipped cream doesn't come out when I fill it. You're alone. So I'm just going to pipe it around the edge so you leave the nice middle.
As much whipped cream as you want.
Yeah, you could do the whole top if you wanted. There you go. So we have a very nice plate we'll put our pie on.
This all smells great.
Perfect.
Succotash is coming up to a boil. So we want the cream to reduce a little bit. This should have a little bit of thickness
Yes,
or
a little bit of
consistency to it.
thickness, so the cream kind of binds all the vegetables together.
Okay.
So we're going to garnish our pie with some of these pumpkin seeds. It's good. I'm going to cut up a bit of sage for garnish on our succotash and gnocchi. I like to chiffonade it so it has a little long texture instead of chopping it, because you could bruise your
Yep.
soft herbs.
And that's very easy to grow in your garden as well.
Yes,
It's pretty
it
hardy
is.
this time of year.
This is our organic sage from Chef's Garden. So we have some of that there. All right. So,
Our gnocchi sauteed in a little bit of bacon fat and butter. just
yeah,
to
you
keep
got that
the-
nice crispy texture on the outside from the bacon fat, and now we are going to put it in our pan, but it's nice
Okay.
and creamy on the inside. All right. Put a little salt and pepper in here.
Beauty. Smells great.
Excellent.
Lots of color too, eh? Lots of.
Lots of fall colors. You got your oranges and your greens, your yellows, and then you have your bacon. Perfect.
Right over there.
So we have this
better
reducing a bit there. It's almost ready to plate. Just you can
So you let
spoon
that go
it
down a
over
little
there.
farther if you
Yeah,
want
you can
to,
let
but-
your cream reduce a bit more if you'd like. We're just gonna have it over. Just spoon it over there, and then you can add a little bit of cream to the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
just for
A little bit of sauce.
a little bit of sauce. We'll let that reduce some more. All right?
Very seasonal.
Yes, and then we'll add our chiffonade sage on top. Then we have our pumpkin pie, which is made with pumpkin, and then we have our pumpkin gnocchi and pumpkin succotash.
Thanks, Michelle, for showing us all about pumpkins.
You're welcome.
And thank you for joining us. Check out our website, kitchenuncovered.com. I'm Chef Andrew Nicholson. Thanks for joining us.